Hi, I'm Dave Taylor from Nurture Landscapes, and I'm here to bring you one of our most popular events, our Christmas wreath making event. For those of you who've attended our events in the past, we're doing a very similar format, so hopefully some of you will remember what we did, and some of you may even have your kits from previous years. So as before, I'm using a 10-inch pre-moss wired ring, and I've got some spruce material here, and I'm going to be decorating that and filling that as we go. So the idea is if you follow stage by stage, at the end of it you'll have something that looks a lot better than what I'm going to show you now. So the first thing I need to do when I'm starting my wreath is I need to take my spindle wire here, my spool of wire, and I'm going to wrap that around the ring, and I'm going to take the pointy end and I'm going to push that into the back of the wreath ring. Once I've pushed it in, I'm then going to wrap the wire around 3 or 4 times. I'm going to give it a light pull each time. We're not trying to snap it. We don't want it too loose. All of our material is going to be wired based on this, so we need to make sure it's nice and secure. So a few times around, a light pull each time, and you have something that looks like this. Wires in the back there, that's very important. When it's swinging on the door, if you've got teenagers that like to slam the doors, you don't want to be scratching the paint, so make sure on the back of your wreath there's nothing sharp or jagged that could damage your paint. Once we've got to this stage, we're ready to start putting our foliage on. I'm using a spruce material. You can buy this from the garden centre. The best place to buy it or get it from is from a local Christmas tree grower. It's often a byproduct and you can pick it up relatively cheaply, and it's a sustainable use to get your wreath going. I've also got one here that I made earlier where I'm using holly. So you can use holly or you can use laurel or different types of product if you wanted to make it look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more rustic. But for what I need to do is I need to start cutting my material to start decorating the wreath. The key to this is to try and keep your cuts the same size. So I try to stick to around about 4 inches, so something around this sort of size. Once you've cut some of your spruce, I want to gather them together in handfuls of sort of 3 or 4. So I've got a good handful here, 3 or 4 bits. And you'll notice on the edges, all the cut pieces are all together. So I've got nice loose leaf form on the edge, and all the cut pieces are together. Where my finger is on the wreath ring here is where the wire is, and I'm going to lay those cut pieces over, about 1 inch, 30 centimetres over. Holding them down, I'm going to wrap it round. We're in this lovely greenhouse today doing this, and you can see it's quite messy already, so please bear that in mind if you're doing it on your dining table or your kitchen worktop. Again, watch out for scratching. I'm not wearing gloves, and you may want to wear gloves. The spruce sap is particularly sticky, and obviously secateurs and scissors are very sharp, so please take care when you're doing it. So the same as the first time, 3 or 4 times around. So I put my first bundle on like so. I'm then going to go back to my material again, another handful of 3 or 4 bits, like so. And this time the loose edges I'm going to lay about 1 inch over the wire again. And the idea of doing this is we're hiding the wire as we go. So those very expensive handmade wreaths that you'll see, what you'll notice with them is that you cannot see any wire. And this is the stage where I'd really recommend you take your time, make sure you covered the wire underneath, and each section as you go is nice and distanced apart, well distanced apart, to give you an equal and balanced wreath. So again, 3 or 4 pieces. Cut edges all together, lay them on top to hide the wire, and you can see I'm working my way around the wreath here, and it's starting to fill out. You're going to carry on that process all the way around, putting those bundles on, until you get to this stage here. So you can see here, this is the very first piece we started with. We've laid them on, and we've gone all the way around, and we're now nearly back to where we started. This is the bit that in our workshops people tend to get a little bit lost, scared and frightened by. So please pay attention and rewind the video if you need to. So another handful over the wire. So I'm coming towards the end. 3 or 4 times around. And you can see now that we're nearly joined up. So what I need to do is take my last handful and carefully lift the first bunch that we put in, slot the last bunch inside, if everyone can see that, and then take the wire and wrap it round, and I'm being careful not to wrap the wire over that first bunch. So I'm going to go round 2 or 3 times, like so. So when it's all wired on, that piece lays over and you can't see the wire anywhere around the wreath. I'm then going to take this spool of wire, I'm going to roll it out approximately 50 centimetres or so, and I'm going to cut the end off. I've then got this length of wire that I'm going to create a hoop with. I don't know if you can see that. to create that hoop, feed the wire through the inside of the wreath, put the wire through the hoop and do that a couple of times, and that's going to tie it off. Pull it nice and tight, and then going to create another hoop like so, and I'm going to twist this hoop around quite a few times, and this is going to form our hanging hoop. And again, because we're on the back of the wreath, I'm just going to trim the excess off, push it inside the wreath ring, and you'll hopefully have something that looks a lot better than that there. So you see, nice and balanced all the way around. So I've done one here with the holly, so you can see the difference if you add different materials in. Once you're at this point, you're ready to start decorating. As I say, we're using traditional dried fruits for our decoration. You can go a little bit 70s if you want to and go a bit retro with some small baubles. You can buy these floristry picks pre-made. They're available on Amazon and garden centres and that sort of thing if you want to use those. We did do one in previous years with Star Wars figures. If you've got a partner who's into a particular hobby and you want to try and recreate that, you can do that same process. It's all about taking your time with the wire and hiding the wire. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to wire on some of these dried fruits. Okay, so now we're ready to start decorating our wreath using our dried fruits and materials that we've got in front of us. For most of these, I'm going to be securing them on using a pick wire. These little green wires here, a little bit stronger than our spool wire that we used before. You can see they're slightly thicker. Each fruit has got a slightly different way of adding it on. So we'll start with our orange rounds. You can see here the orange round is complete. And once we've made these fruits with the wire on, we're creating something called a pick. And once we've got that pick ready, so in this case the orange, we're ready to slide it on. So I'll just talk through the process of how we wire the material onto the wreath. So I'm going to hold this like a pen with my finger and thumb at the end, and I'm going to push this through the moss base. You'll hear it crunching as it goes through the straw. You may hit a bit of resistance if you hit the wire that's inside the ring or one of the branches. So just take your time on this and try and get the wire to come out nice and straight like so. Once it comes out, what I want to do is bend that round and push that back inside the ring again like so. Once we've done that, you can see our fruit's attached. It's very secure. I won't move it around too much at this stage, but we should be able to wobble it around and it not move too much. We can adjust it slightly if we need to, and it's nice and firm. And we'll carry that process along all the way around the wreath using the materials in front of us. So next I'm going to take a pine cone, and with the pine cone I'm going to take the pick wire and I'm going to slot it into the seed nodes at the base to create a little fishing hook, like so. I'm going to bring those together and twist to create this sort of effect. Again, that gives us another pick that we can push into our wreath base. Using our flat fruit, so I've got some apples and some oranges here. You might want to gather them in groups of 3 or 4, it's entirely up to you. I like to use all one fruit in each one, and I tend to use 3s, 5s or 7s. And I'm going to push those through the edge of the fruit. Again, make another little fishing hook, twist those together, and again we can push that through into the wreath like so. Our little pumpkinos, which are these little pumpkins here, I'm going to turn it upside down, I'm going to push it through the edge of the pumpkino, like so, make another little fishing hook, push it back inside, bend it down, and again we can push that in like so. So there are dried fruits and how we're going to attach those. We've also got some cinnamon sticks. For the cinnamon sticks we're going to use our spool of wire here, and I'm going to pull the wire out to around 50 centimetres, just trim the end. And then grouping the cinnamon sticks again in 3, 5s or 7, I'm going to create a small tail that comes off here. It's about 10 centimetres long. And I'm going to wrap the wire around tightly, and I'm pulling this each time I go round to keep it nice and secure. I'm then going to twist them together. Some of you might remember the old sandwich ties from the 80s and 90s, I certainly do. So I'll twist it together like that, and you can see we've pinched it up nice and tight, and we've got these 2 tails here. I'm going to trim these down slightly. And to attach this to the wreath, if we take one of the branches, we're going to wrap the cinnamon stick round and then twist it tight underneath, and we're going to make sure there's no sharp edges, and that will hold the cinnamon stick onto it. What I've done to hide the wire, because remember at the start, the more professional it will look, the better it is. If we hide the wire, the more professional it will look. And to hide the wire on this, I'm using some brown parcel string. You can use raffia or other materials if you want. So I've just wrapped the parcel string round, cut it nice and tight, and you can see we've got our 2 tails there where we go round underneath, and we're twisting it on and that will hold it nice and secure. So what I'm going to do now is spend a few moments decorating this wreath. I'll come back to you in a moment because I'm sure you don't want me to see him do all of it, and we'll see the finished product at the end. There are lots and lots of videos online of how to make much better bows, but if you want a very nice, simple and effective bow, very easy to do, I just take the end, create one hoop, fold it underneath, create another hoop. I'm going to pinch that together in the middle, so both hoops are the same size. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to take some of the spool of wire that we used at the start, and I'm going to wrap that around, pulling it as tight as possible, 3 or 4 turns, to create this sort of effect. So you see there, we've got the wire hanging down, we've got our tails. I'm just going to trim the tails up so they look nice and neat, fold them together and then cut towards the middle. I'm going to push the hoops together to hide the wire. Then using one of our pre-made wreaths here to show you, I'm going to take this wire, open it up, and then at the bottom or the top, depending on where you want it, wrap it round the wreath and then twist that together. You can hold it so you can see. Twist that together like so. Make sure it's nice and secure. Again, trim off the excess and we push those pointy bits back inside. I'll try and do this upside down. So like so, this tail's a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim that up, watching my fingers, and that's how you create a bow. And here you can see the finished article. I'm quite happy with it, but hopefully yours will look a lot better. I've put a bow on here, which I hope you enjoyed the bow making workshop. Slightly different take on that if you didn't want to put a bow at the bottom. You can see the alternate wreath we made here. What I've done is I've threaded the bow through to create a hoop, and then I can hang that off of my door by pinning the top of the ribbon onto the door, and I've got a wreath that hangs down like that is the other option. When you've finished after Christmas and you're taking this apart, some of the materials can be reused and saved if you want to do so. What I like to do is I like to take all the material off, do the same process again, and in the spring I like to put some feed on there for the birds, so I'll wire on some fat balls and things like that and put them by the door so I can enjoy, and our kids can enjoy seeing the birds come to it. And then towards the end of the summer, particularly around September time with lavender, I like to take a lot of lavender cuttings and I'll wire lavender around and put that on the door, just with the moss and the wire, so I've got a nice fragrant entrance. It's nice and autumnal, ready for the winter to come on. So I hope you've enjoyed today's wreath making workshop, and I think that's it from me. So Merry Christmas on behalf of Nurture Landscapes, and I hope you all have a great new year. Thank you.